Your unfriendly neighborhood spider Hulk. The wall-crawling giant explained. You know him, you love him, he is the amazing Spider-Man. Bitten by a radioactive spider, this friendly neighborhood web-slinger was endowed with spider-like abilities, including the proportionate strength of a spider, the ability to cling to walls, and turning into a raging green monster when he gets angry. Wait, that can't be right, can it? Well, it turns out our favorite wall crawler briefly gained the powers of the Incredible Hulk. But not just in the main reality of the Marvel Universe. Recent issues of the ongoing Hulk series have shown a twisted alternate version of the mighty Spider-Hulk that gave the original near unstoppable Jade Giant a run for his money. So let's get into it and explore just how Peter Parker turned green. Clobbered in Connecticut. Years ago, way back in the series Web of Spider-Man, Peter Parker was assigned by his longtime newspaper boss, JONAH Jameson, to follow a story about a mysterious beast roaming the countryside of Connecticut. Jameson had Peter travel north alongside his ex-girlfriend and new reporter Betty Brant to discover just what this beast was and capture photos of it in action. Betty was eager to prove herself, seeing this as her big break into reporting after years of being an assistant to Jameson. Naturally, she was nervous and relying on Peter Parker and his experience in the newspaper business to help her get her first story. Pete promised that he would do anything he could to make her investigation an easy one. Obviously, nothing would be easy about this particular trip. Before getting into the spider shenanigans, be sure to subscribe to the channel with notifications on to never miss an upload, and smash that like button for some plot armor today. At the same time that Peter was on his way north, a mad scientist named Armand Jones was working on a device he had given the catchy name, the Biokinetic Energy Absorber. This contraption would somehow transfer the strength of any powerful source, man or beast, to whomever wielded the device. When he overheard the news broadcast about the strange beast, he saw it as his opportunity to test the device on the monster and gain its strength. A very normal and scientific thing to do. Dr. Jones using this device to steal enough power to have his vengeance on the Fantastic Four, who he believed were responsible for his brother's death. But what he would find proved to be too powerful to handle. I'm sure you, smart viewer, have already guessed it, but that mysterious beast terrorizing the fair state of Connecticut was not just some random monster, but actually the Incredible Hulk. He was rampaging across the northeast of the United States with his then wife, Betty Ross, in tow. Seeing a woman in Hulk's arms, the local police called for backup as they believed that the woman was in danger. After running from the cops, Ross eventually convinced Hulk to hide, not wanting to get embroiled with the police. Hulk protested but eventually turned back into Bruce Banner after Ross convinced him that gunfire might not be dangerous for Hulk, but certainly was for her. While police investigated the scene, Peter and Betty Brant arrived near the sighting and encountered a police barricade. Peter's spider sense began warning him of potential danger ahead. Seeing a car in front of them sneak off into the woods, Pete abandoned Betty on the side of the road. He raced to investigate the danger, leaving his colleague alone and confused. Typical Peter Parker using the tired old excuse of getting a photo and abandoning his friends. Meanwhile, the mad scientist Armand Jones was getting close to Hulk by tracking his energy signal through his biokinetic device. Arriving at the cabin Banner and Ross were hiding in, he snuck up on the two sleeping runaways and pressed the biokinetic energy absorber to Banner's head. The machine's sharp blades clamped down on Banner and began absorbing some of his gamma radiation. The process shocked Banner awake, which spelled doom for Jones. He didn't know what hurt him, but it didn't matter. Something was going to get smashed. After all, if there's one thing you absolutely don't want to do in life, it's rudely awaken Bruce Banner. Startled and reeling from the shock, Banner doubled over in pain and transformed into the Raging Hulk, unleashing the monster's full fury. Hulk turned to see Dr. Jones cowering in fear and accused him of being Banner's friend. Hulk prowled towards the stranger as the terrified Jones begged for his life. Before Hulk could attack, however, Spider-Man crashed through the window of the cabin and engaged Hulk in battle. Hulk turned his full attention on Spidey, and the force of their mighty clash caused the walls of the cabin to collapse upon Armand Jones. Hulk was not concerned with the man's death despite Betty Ross's dismay. He wrote the puny man off as Banner's friend and therefore Hulk's enemy. Instead, he demanded to know if Spider-Man was also Banner's friend. Even though Hulk and Banner share the same body, they are often at odds with one another. This version of Hulk was particularly jealous of Banner and his ability to live a normal life. When Spidey admitted that he was sort of Banner's friend, Hulk grew even angrier and directed his fury towards the wall crawler. As they tussled, Spidey's arm scraped against the sharp tips of the biokinetic energy absorber. The shock knocked him to the ground as energy coursed through his body, leaving him vulnerable to Hulk's attack. The mean green machine threw Spidey through the wall and savagely beat him until they both sank beneath the water of a nearby lake. Betty begged Hulk to stop, and when Spider-Man eventually stopped fighting, Hulk emerged from the water believing himself victorious. Hulk took Betty and ran away where he wouldn't be bothered by any more of Banner's friends. But Spider-Man was only playing possum, and when Hulk left the scene, he broke through the surface. Other than some scrapes and bruises, Spidey thought he was walking away from the fight with nothing but a burning itch on his back. If only, Pete. Spider, strongest there is. This is bad. A man with the proportional powers of a spider, combined with an unstoppable force with the temperament of a tantruming toddler. Following the fight, Spider-Man returned to New York with the biokinetic thingy, as Spidey called it. He hoped to examine it and figure out what exactly it had done to him to make him feel so strange. To keep the thingy safe until he could figure out where to take it, Spidey changed back to Peter Parker and stored the device in a locker at Grand Central Station before returning to the newspaper office to give his photos of Spider-Man's fight with the Hulk to Jameson. Back at the office, Jameson chewed him out for abandoning his partner Betty Brant. Betty joined in, calling him a sorry excuse for a professional. As if to criticize him, Peter lost his temper, screaming and demanding both to leave me alone. Peter ran out of the office and up to the rooftop where he donned his costume to swing away. As he ran across the roof, waves of cold fire raced through the young hero, numbing his spider sense that would have otherwise warned him of the pressure sensors on the roof that alerted security of intruders. Two officers arrived on the scene, their guns drawn. They warned Spider-Man that if he did not come quietly, they would have to shoot. Spider-Man warned them to stay away and not to make him mad. As the officers looked on, Spider-Man began to undergo a horrifying transformation. He seemed to double in size, his costume ripping as his muscles bulged, revealing green skin beneath the webs. His transformation complete, the newly emerged Spider-Hulk turned to the officers in blind fury and shouted, "Spider Smash!" The officers unloaded their bullets onto the Spider-Hulk, but the bullets just bounced off of him harmlessly. Spider-Hulk ripped the roof out from under the guards, nearly throwing both off the top of the building before he bounded away. He retreated beneath a bridge, all the while wondering, why puny men tried to hurt Spider? Men stupid! But his anger and strength were spent, and Spider-Hulk collapsed in exhaustion, turning back to his regular form. Once Spidey woke up the next day, he swung off to Betty Brant to find out more info about the Hulk attack in Connecticut and the dead scientist that she had discovered in her investigation after he abandoned her. Learning the scientist's name, Spidey was able to track down the lab and discover Jones's notes. But in the process, he tripped yet another security alarm. The shock triggered another Hulk transformation as Spidey's anxiety started to spike. The stress mounting, Spider-Man tried to fight the transformation even as he began to rip through his costume again. Spidey escaped and was able to calm himself down for long enough to peruse the scientist's notes and understand what had happened to him. Somehow, part of Hulk's bioenergy had been captured by the device and transferred to him, cursing him with a similar uncontrollable power. With some answers, Pete swung his way back to Grand Central Station to use the thingy and put himself right again. After all, according to Peter, Aunt May didn't raise me to be Spider-Hulk. Once at the train station though, Spidey discovered the device had been stolen by a group of young punks. Scared and angry, Spidey hulked out and smashed the lockers in a rage before a terrified bystander pointed him in the direction of the thieves. Spider-Hulk swung away, smashing through the iconic city landmark until he reached the punks. Using his webs to pull down the large clock in the station, Spider-Hulk blocked their escape. He demanded the kids to give Spider thingy. Horrified, they handed the device over, but as he leapt for it, the device activated and zapped the Spider-Hulk with a burst of energy. Spider-Hulk staggered away, smashing across the station some more and destroying the biokinetic thingy in his panic before falling to his knees. Plain old Spider-Man once more. Immediately, Spider-Man retreated before the police could confront him for all the havoc he had wreaked on the iconic station. With that final zap, the machine had reabsorbed the Hulk's energies, and with its destruction, everything was back to normal. And that was the end of that, no more Spider-Hulk. Well, until years later when Loki, the god of mischief in his misguided attempts to be a hero, took the Hulk away from Bruce Banner. What he didn't realize was that his magic had not destroyed that power, but transferred it to Spider-Man. Even when Loki tries to use his powers for good, he can't help making things go wrong. Now, the first appearance of Spider-Hulk was an old-school, low-stakes adventure that played Spider-Man's predicament for laughs more than anything else. But future versions of this Spider-Hulk spent more time exploring the dark side of the Hulk transformation and the psychological impact it had on Spider-Man, particularly the most recent version of Spider-Hulk, an alternate reality monster where a young Peter Parker has been enslaved as a brutal killing machine. But that's a bit later, we still have to wrap things up with the main Marvel universe. Night of the Spider-Hulk. After Loki's magic spell had taken Hulk's energy from Bruce Banner, the scientists awoke disoriented and confused. Because of the nature of Hulk's powers at the time, the Hulk took over at night, so Bruce was shocked to see that he was himself in the moonlight. From nearby, Bruce saw Spider-Man pull himself from some rubble just as disoriented. Both had seemed to pass out with no memory of how they had gotten to where they were. Before the two could put their heads together, Spider-Man's body began to undergo a painful change. With Hulk's powers, Spider-Man was now cursed to transform at nightfall into the raging Spider-Hulk, rather than in response to emotions. Spider-Hulk would go on unstoppable rampages, screaming about Norman Osborn as he smashed and destroyed whatever was in his way. Bruce Banner, feeling responsible for the Hulk no matter who was transforming into him, vowed to help Spider-Man. But first, he had to be caught. which meant somehow stopping the tantruming, wall-crawling, web-swinging Green Giant. Luckily, Banner was able to call in help from the Fantastic Four. After a one-on-one battle with a thing that smashed them both down through the sewers, the team was able to subdue Spider-Hulk together and keep him out cold long enough to drop him off on an abandoned island. There, they hoped he would not be able to harm anyone during his nightly smashing sessions until a solution could be found. There, Banner stayed with Spider-Man through his transformation so that he would not be alone. Spider-Man admitted to being scared. "I don't want to turn into that thing again. I don't want to just stop being again." Spidey tried to get Banner to leave, but the former Hulk refused. As night came, Spidey could feel himself fading. With a final reassurance from Banner that he wasn't alone, Spider-Man let go and became the Hulk once more. In the morning, Banner emerged from the rubble of another rampage unharmed and assured Spider-Man that the Spider-Hulk never tried to hurt him. With the day ahead of them, Banner, Reed Richards, and Spider-Man put their big scientific brains together to come up with a solution to return Hulk to its rightful owner. They decided to create a controlled miniature version of the gamma explosion that first turned Bruce Banner into the Hulk with just enough radiation to trigger a minor transformation. Then Hulk could use his power to absorb gamma radiation to draw out the energy that was causing Spider-Man to become the Hulk. But before they put their plan in motion, Spidey offered to keep the Hulk and relieve Banner of his long nightmare. Banner appreciated the offer, but said the Hulk was his burden, not Spider-Man's. This is a great example of what makes Spider-Man such a special and selfless character. Even though he was terrified of what he had become, he was willing to carry the burden for Bruce Banner. No matter the situation, Peter Parker tries to help others even if it means suffering in their place or ruining his own life. It's the same reason why he is willing to ruin his reputation by, say, abandoning his colleague on the side of the road to protect them. It stands in stark contrast to the alternate reality Spider-Hulk we will see soon, who is just a helpless tool and raging monster. As Spider-Man transformed into the Hulk, the gamma explosion went off. Banner's Hulk emerged from the blast, smaller and weaker than normal, and warned Spider-Hulk he had something that didn't belong to him. In defiance, Spider-Hulk smirked and said, "Come get it, little Hulk." The two green brutes slugged it out, Spider-Hulk briefly looking like he was going to pummel the weaker Banner Hulk, until he discovered that anytime the two touched, Banner stole back some of Spider-Hulk's strength. With his mind clouded by rage and his intelligence lowered as a result of his transformation, Spider-Hulk kept punching, not realizing it meant him losing his power. After absorbing enough power, Banner Hulk pinned Spider-Hulk down and took all the gamma back. Later, the two awoke back to normal. No Hulks in sight. But it was still night, which meant that Banner would transform again soon. Spider-Man offered his support to Bruce, saying that he understood what he goes through now, the fear of losing oneself completely. For that reason, he decided to stay by Banner's side as he changes, telling him that just this once, he wouldn't need to be alone when he fades. Unfortunately for the Peter Parker we will soon meet, that Spider-Hulk had no one to stand by him. As Hulk emerged, he thanked Spider-Man for being with Banner, something he could never do. As he walked away, Hulk told Spider-Man, "You're a good man, Peter Parker. I'll try to remember the next time we meet." Unfriendly Neighborhood Spider-Hulk. Recently, an alternate universe version of Spider-Hulk was revealed in the pages of the current Hulk series. While his appearance was brief, he was nonetheless a frightening creature and a far cry from the far more goofy Spider-Hulk from the main universe. This new Spider-Hulk was a completely mutated monster with a tragic history and a completely different character than the Peter Parker we know and love. Hulk encountered the monstrous Spider-Hulk while traveling to an alternate reality. In this new universe, Bruce Banner never became the Hulk, and the Gamma Bomb test was successful. This led to Bruce Banner's father-in-law, Thunderbolt Ross, to become president and use the bomb to wage war on the planet, creating a world populated by mutated creatures. This alternate Banner had brought the Hulk to his world to find a cure for the gamma mutations that Ross had weaponized and enslaved. Banner had been trying to find a way to undermine President Ross and atone for his sins that caused so much destruction. He was now hiding deep in the mountains, plotting against Ross. But when he brought the Hulk to his world, there was a massive spike in radiation that alerted Ross to Banner's presence. The president prepared for a superpowered army to capture Banner. As he prepared to go to war, he gave a mysterious and ominous instruction to his assistant: "Bring the boy." Ross's forces soon converged on Banner's secret base, but they were not expecting to face a Hulk. Looking out on the massive forces, including multiple tanks, fighter jets, and giant mech robots, Hulk laughed and simply boasted, "They should have sent more." And he was right. Hulk smashed his way through the attackers, barreling through the assault even as the weapons blasted away his flesh. Hulk, his body now controlled by Banner as if it were a starship, raged and destroyed Ross's oncoming fighters. The alternate Banner looked on in horror, realizing he had brought a whole new kind of bomb to his world. Ross patched into Banner's radio signal, warning Banner to tell his abomination to stop fighting, or he would have to send in Banner's star pupil to put an end to things. Banner begged Ross not to do it and that he would try to stop Hulk, but he had no control. As he stood at the open door of his helicopter with a young boy chained up, Banner tried to reach Hulk and convince him to end the battle. But Ross was eager to see Banner die and pushed the boy out of the aircraft, sending him hurtling down through the sky, completely defenseless. We know that Thunderbolt Ross has always been a character driven by an irrational hatred for the Hulk. After all, in the main 616 universe, that hate went so far as to twist him into the Red Hulk. But President Ross had been totally consumed by his dark side. He was not above literally torturing Bruce Banner or any of his so-called abominations, the mutated gamma creatures that he used as weapons. And if you're curious, make sure to check out our Red Hulk video for more on Thunderbolt Ross. As the helpless prisoner crashed to the ground, the army retreated, leaving Hulk confused and the Ultimate Banner sobbing that they had killed him. Hulk asked who had been killed, and Banner explained that it was a research student of his, a boy named Peter, who had been bitten by a gamma-irradiated spider. Banner had been trying to cure him, but Ross wanted to use him as a weapon. But Peter was not dead, and when Hulk turned around, he found himself face to face with a massive, monstrous red creature covered in spikes. This mutated Spider Hulk had 8 insect-like legs, and his arms were sharpened, deadly blades. This Spider Hulk was not just the simple-minded and angry Hulk of the main universe, but a ferocious beast with a full list for blood and a grotesque transformation that seemed to cause him physical pain. His strength was so great he seemed to outclass the Hulk at times, and his physical transformation dwarfed the Hulk in size. As Banner in his pilot mindscape fought his own subconscious over the idea of hurting a child, even one so transformed and dangerous, Spider Hulk let loose all its rage on Hulk. Ultimately, Banner was able to quiet his doubts and press a big smash button in his metal cockpit and attack Spider Hulk with his Hulk's full strength. Weakened by the attack, or perhaps just frightened of Hulk's power, the Spider Hulk slowly transformed back into Peter Parker and begged Hulk to stop. He didn't want to fight anymore and just wanted to go home. While begging for the fighting to stop, Peter turned up to look at the sky, where he saw a rush of bombs falling from high above. Seeing the bombs coming for him, the tortured young man knew his brief and tragic life was about to come to an end. Peter's last words before impact were, "Not like this." After the dust from the gamma explosion settled, a new set of Ross's abominations crawled out from the rubble to fight the Hulk. But Peter and the Spider Hulk were no more, seemingly gone for good as a sacrifice in service of President Ross's lust for power. Spider Hulk powers. Spider Hulk does whatever a Spider Hulk can. This mashup of the Web Wonder and Marvel's Jolly Green Giant has almost all of the powers of both Spider-Man and the Hulk, making him one tough customer. Unfortunately, the transformation means that Peter loses some of his most helpful talents, his creative and brilliant mind, and his spider sense. When the transformation is triggered through anxiety or anger, Spider-Man gradually loses his danger warning system, while his body goes through the pain and discomfort of the change into the green monster. This leaves him temporarily vulnerable from people sneaking up on him or unaware of traps in his path. Once the change is complete, Spider-Man becomes a ball of uncontrollable anger, and whoever he is mad at better watch out. This Spider Hulk seems to love smashing anything in his path even more than the original Hulk. However, if he doesn't have a problem with you, he will leave you alone and take his anger out on any buildings or large objects around him. Unfortunately, Spider Hulk also loses much of Peter Parker's intelligence, leaving him as little more than an oversized tantruming toddler, as Bruce Banner explained it. With the combination of his rage and amped up strength and limited intelligence, Spider Hulk is also extremely cocky and ready to fight anyone who bothers him and prove his strength. After the Thing beat Spider-Man into submission and the Fantastic Four left Spider-Man on a deserted island where he could not hurt anyone, the Thing suggested staying with Spider-Man in case the Spider Hulk tried to hurt Bruce Banner, who refused to leave. Banner explained that the Hulk would remember their fight and it would only make him angrier to see the Thing, meaning Spider Hulk also held onto grudges between transformations, even though Spider-Man could not remember anything his other self did. Spider Hulk proved to still be able to use Spider-Man's web shooters and swing around the city despite his massive size, making him more agile than the original Hulk and unpredictable in a fight. He was also still able to stick to walls, although he preferred breaking them down. In the alternate universe where the young Peter Parker was bitten by a gamma-irradiated spider and enslaved by President Thunderbolt Ross, Peter's transformation seemed to be triggered only by extreme circumstances that threatened his life. Peter seemed to die when he was pushed out of the aircraft, but emerged moments later as he mutated Behemoth. Although he seemed to have finally died when the explosion of gamma abominations dropped on top of him, it is unlikely that this Peter truly died, and he could still pop up any time in the future. This monstrous version of Spider Hulk was completely different from the simple mashup of two existing heroes. He was a whole new kind of monster of immense strength and towering size. He didn't seem to have spider abilities, but instead took on physical characteristics of a spider, including dangerous bladed pincers for arms and 8 gigantic razor-sharp legs. His strength also seemed to outclass Bruce Banner's Hulk until he amped up his rage and managed to beat Spider Hulk hard enough to scare the Peter Parker hidden inside. With a combination of powers of two mighty heroes, Spider Hulk might just be one of the most powerful heroes in the Marvel Universe, if you can even call him a hero. I have been Sliceable Otaku of Plot Armor Comics. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.